Welcome to the Castlefinn Flood Relief Scheme opening public consultation. This opening public consultation is an opportunity for the project team, Donegal County Council, the Office of Public Works and their engineering and environmental consultants to collect valuable local information and views on the development of a flood relief scheme for Castlefinn. The consultation is open from the 9th of November to the 21st of December 2020. Further information is available from the project website at www.countydonegalfrs.ie/CastleFinnFRS. The project is being coordinated by the Project Steering Group led by Donegal County Council with support from the Office of Public Works. Shane McMonigal and Lorraine Arbuckle from Donegal County Council are leading the Project Steering Group. RPS have been appointed to provide the engineering and environmental services needed to support the development and delivery of the flood relief scheme. The RPS team is led by Andrew Jackson. Brendan Quigley, the project manager, is coordinating a team of flood risk professionals in the delivery of RPS services. Mark McGee is coordinating a team of ecologists and environmental scientists in the delivery of the environmental services. The Castlefinn community is central to the successful development and delivery of a flood relief scheme for Castlefinn. Local knowledge and experience of past flooding is invaluable in determining if the analysis which underpins the project is accurate. The community can help identify the constraints to development and delivery of the scheme and advise the project team what issues matter most in the delivery of a flood relief scheme for Castlefinn. Other regional and national stakeholder organisations can provide further input on the constraints which will shape the form of the development and delivery of the flood relief scheme. This presentation sets out the background to the scheme, including the historical risk at Castlefinn and the work that has previously been carried out to understand the level of flood risk and the development of potential flood risk management options at Castlefinn as part of previous flood studies. Moving forward into the scheme development phase, we wish to set out what is happening now in relation to determining the constraints and objectives for a flood relief scheme at Castlefinn, the collection of information to inform the development of a flood relief scheme, and the future stages and envisaged timeline for the development of a scheme. Castlefinn has had a history of serious flooding, the most recent extreme occurrences being in November and December 2015. During these events, numerous businesses and residential properties were flooded, including the Castlefinn Partnership Initiative CPI Centre. Both these events were extreme flood events with an annual exceedance probability of approximately between 5% and 1%. In other words, the events could be classified as between 1 in 20 year and 1 in 100 year flood return periods. Both of the flood events in 2015 were due to the River Finn exceeding its banks, leading to floodwaters extending into the town. Flood flows from the tributaries could not discharge freely to the Finn, and these watercourses acted as a route for floodwaters to back up into the town. Flood levels in the Finn were impacted by the flood conditions at the confluence of the Finn with the Mourne at Lifford, with water backing up through the Finn Valley. In addition to the extreme recent flood events, Castlefinn has a long history of recorded flood events due to prolonged or intense rainfall, out-of-bank flooding from the Finn and tributaries flowing through the town, and water backing up along the Finn from the Foyle confluence at Lifford. The flood event recorded for the 26th of September 1985 is thought to have been another severe flood event at Castlefinn and along the Finn Valley. Although flood flows were recorded for this event, it is difficult to determine the magnitude of the event due to the uncertainty in the flood flow data available from the time. Background to the scheme. To address flooding issues nationally, the Office of Public Works commissioned and completed Catchment and Flood Risk Management or CFRAM studies covering the entire country. The CFRAM study was completed with the support from Donegal County Council. An output of the study identified flood risk areas including Castlefinn and the associated impacts of flooding on Castlefinn. The study also prepared flood risk management plans which set out the measures and policies to be pursued in order to achieve the most cost-effective and sustainable management of flood risk. The flood maps available at www.floodinfo.ie set out the level of flood risk in Castlefinn at the time of the CFRAM study. Using the online map viewer available at floodinfo.ie to navigate to Castlefinn, users can access and download a range of flood maps providing information on the predicted flood extents, depths and risks under a number of probability-based scenarios. The scenarios are expressed in terms of high probability, which represents a 10% chance of occurrence or exceedance in any given year, also referred to as a 1 in 10 year return period. Medium probability represents a 1% chance of occurrence or exceedance in any given year, also referred to as a 1 in 100 year return period. Low probability represents a 0.1% chance of occurrence or exceedance in any given year and is also referred to as a 1 in 1000 year return period. Your feedback on the accuracy of the CFRAM study maps would assist the reanalysis and refinement of the flood risk as part of the Castlefinn flood relief scheme. As mentioned previously, we estimate the flooding which occurred in 2015 to have had an approximate return period or annual exceedance probability of between 5% and 1% and would therefore expect the flooding that would have been observed by the community in Castlefinn in 2015 to have been greater than that shown for the 10% AEP CFRAM mapped flood extent and up to and around the level of flooding shown for the 1% AEP CFRAM mapped flood event. Following the modelling and mapping phase of the CFRAM study, different flood risk management measures were considered for Castlefinn. Technically viable measures were considered in combination to determine flood risk management options for Castlefinn. These options were then assessed against a range of technical, social, environmental and economic criteria. The preferred option identified was a series of hard defences protecting the low-lying flood routes into the town from the River Finn to the south. A cluster of properties to the south of the river was also identified as at risk and hard defences proposed to these properties also. Following the flooding in late 2015, a flood embankment was constructed to protect the properties from the flood route through the low-lying lands to the east of the town. New analysis to be undertaken as part of the flood relief scheme will consider the effectiveness of this embankment as well as any other changes which have occurred since the CFRAM study data was collected. Development of the Castlefinn flood relief scheme. Following the launch of the CFRAM study findings, as part of the government's National Development Plan 2018 to 2027, almost €1 billion was committed to investment into flood relief measures across the country. Following this commitment, a steering group was established between the OPW and Donegal County Council to progress a flood relief scheme to alleviate the risk of flooding for the community of Castlefinn. RPS were appointed engineering and environmental consultants in July 2020 to develop a scheme that is technically, socially, environmentally and economically acceptable. The analysis to be undertaken as part of the scheme will build upon the analysis undertaken during the CFRAM study. Datasets will be updated to consider the most recent available information. The resolution of the analysis will be enhanced where appropriate, including the addition of other minor watercourses which may affect the level of flood risk at Castlefinn. A preferred option will be identified such that it may be developed through planning, detailed construction design and delivery stages. Development of flood relief options will consider the interaction of flows in each of the water bodies and the associated impact on flooding in Castlefinn. Development of flood relief options will consider the impact on neighbouring communities of Clady, Lifford and Strabane in line with the requirements of the EU Floods Directive. The tasks which are currently ongoing are data collection. The project team are acquiring and reviewing all relevant sources of information. Topographical survey. A detailed survey specification has been issued to survey contractors with a view to acquiring up-to-date data on the rivers and floodplains. Hydrological analysis. Outputs of this will include estimates of flood flows to be used in the design. Environmental constraints study. This is to ensure that environmental issues are considered early in the design process. Information on the scheme as it develops will be made available through the project website available at www.countydonegalfrs/Castlefinn-FRS. The first project newsletter is available to view on the website. Newsletters will be released on a quarterly basis. This presentation is designed to introduce the opening public consultation for the scheme. The purpose of the opening public consultation is to display the process for developing the scheme and to gather valuable local knowledge from stakeholders and the public and to seek views in relation to key issues that should be addressed during the scheme development. Information on the scheme has been delivered to a number of properties within the areas identified as at risk during the CFRAM study as part of the opening public consultation. This information is also available through the website and includes the opening public consultation brochure and a questionnaire. A key aspect of the opening public consultation is the identification of all the environmental constraints. These are the key environmental issues in the study area, which may be impacted upon by possible flood relief measures and/or which may impose constraints on the viability and design of these measures. This includes issues which are important to the local community, and your feedback in relation to such issues is welcome and can be provided through the opening public consultation questionnaire available through the website consultation portal. The Castlefinn Flood Relief Scheme will be developed in 5 stages. Stage 1. Scheme development and design will involve the collection of all relevant data. A survey specification will be prepared, tendered and managed, and a hydrological and hydraulic analysis of the study area will be carried out. A full cost-benefit analysis of the preferred option for the scheme will also be undertaken. Stage 2. Planning. Stage 2 will involve preparation of all documentation required to progress the scheme through the necessary planning process, including public display and other statutory processes as required. Stage 3. Detailed construction design and tender. Stage 3 will involve detailed design, preparation of tender documents, and a public competition to appoint a main works contractor. Stage 4, construction. Construction will be carried out by a works contractor under supervision of the consultant following a public procurement competition. A functioning scheme will be in place at the end of Stage 4. Stage 5, handover of works. This involves the commission of the scheme and the handover of the works by the main contractor. The programme for the scheme will be subject to change as the scheme develops. Technical and environmental constraints may alter the programme for the scheme as they become clear. It is envisaged that Stage 1, scheme development and design, will be completed by the middle of 2022. It is envisaged that Stage 2, planning, will be completed by the middle of 2023. It is envisaged that Stage 3, detailed construction design and tender, will be completed in the first half of 2024, with a main works contractor commencing the works at that point. Stage 4, construction, is envisaged to be completed before the end of 2025, at which point a functioning scheme will be in place. Stage 5, handover of the works, will be ongoing throughout the end of 2025 and into 2026. Information provided through this opening public consultation will be used to inform the development of the preferred flood relief scheme for Castlefinn. Once the preferred option has been identified by the project team, a second public consultation day will be held to let stakeholders and the public know how their observations, comments and submissions were used within the scheme development process. You can keep in touch with the project through the website, by email and by post. Submissions received, subject to your consent, may be used by the project team to contact you in the future regarding further development and news in relation to the scheme. Thank you for taking the time to engage with the opening public consultation for the Castlefinn Flood Relief Scheme.